Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today I would like to share you a free code samples on how I optimize several hours of time in developing infrastructure as a code, especially for AWS resources using CDK with the help of CDK Constructs. So let's go into this video. I'll show you how I did it and how you can also save the time and improve productivity and become a better programmer. Right? So when I started building an infrastructure as a code using CDK, and as I got to know that my teammates wanted to fork my code base and reuse my code in their work streams, they're basically copying the code and using it in their repositories. And on top of it, every time I make changes to my repo, they had to make necessary changes in their code base, which is totally waste of time. And moreover, I was becoming a bottleneck for their development efforts, which is a big anti-pattern for DevOps principles. So when I started thinking about the core problem, on how can I make this piece of code to be deployed and managed like a module or like a Docker image and allow other team members to just use it as an independent library and add a version for that module so that I can publish as many versions as I want to a repository, and developers would consume that version whenever they are ready for it. So this is where the beauty of CDK comes in. CDK has a feature called CDK Constructs. I'm going to put a reference link in the description box for information, but this is how it works. And here is a high-level design document for it. So let's say you want to publish an infrastructure as a core for your Lambda pipeline. Okay, that takes care of following things. One, it builds your Docker image, okay, and then it publishes that Docker image to ECR repo. Let's say stage one. In stage two, you take the same published Docker image and update your Lambda function. That's it. So this is a two-stage pipeline. And how am I doing it here is, so now application B approached me and asked me for the same solution. So in general, what would I do is ask them to fork my code, right, this code, and build their pipeline from their own repo. See? Now my code base is sitting in multiple repos. As you know, this goes on to multiple applications, and finally you or your team end up maintaining this code everywhere else. So now with the help of CDK Construct, I am going to create a construct for my solution and name it as, let's say, Lambda pipeline, and version it as 1.0. Okay, and finally publish it to the code art. So now, as an application developer, you want to build a pipeline for your Lambda application. What would you do is just use that particular library in your package.json file, and that's it. Feed some parameters to it and do a CDK deploy. All it does is create this whole pipeline. So you're not recreating the code. You're not writing any new code. All you're doing is passing your own configurations using config.json to this particular library that I already published. All you're including that and hitting CDK deploy. So now let's get into the action and how I developed this code so that you could see it. So once you download the zip file that I provide you in this video instructions, this is how you see it. There is an examples folder. I'll come to that piece. There are a Lambda pipeline construct folder, and there is a few prerequisites folder. Okay, and for this demo purpose, I kind of reused the existing Lambda function, which we already wrote. Here is how it goes. The first thing that we need to do is you need to wear a package developer role hat. What it means is let's say, for example, you are developing this whole pipeline as a construct. So being that package developer, you need to have a code artifact where you could publish that particular pipeline package to a code artifact. So those who don't know about code artifact, so if you're hearing code artifact for the first time, don't worry. It's just an artifact repository. I'm going to put a description in this video. When you are acting as a package developer, it means that you are building this construct, right? So for building this construct, I have a folder called Lambda pipeline construct. So let's go into the Lambda pipeline construct and see what it is in there. So I am including a code build library and including a code pipeline, and I'm adding a code pipeline actions, an IAM role, and rest of the environments. All right. So before I explain how pipeline was created, let me explain you what all is going in the pipeline. I need an API for creating a pipeline. I also need 2 code build projects for stage 1 and stage 2. And I need an ECR repo where I could push that Docker image into ECR. Pipeline is asking these details from the application developer. So if you see here, these are the variables that are required to have: a pipeline name, a code repo, a branch name, and other attributes like, what is your org name, app name, attribute, environment, region, etc. Right? And these two, one is for you need a build spec for code build, and you need another build spec for another code build. So we are asking the application developer provide your two build specs paths here. So the first line here is I'm creating a pipeline, and I'm calling that pipeline as with all these details by adding a Lambda pipeline to it. And within that pipeline, I need two code build projects. Here are my two code build projects. Number one is to build the artifact, and number two is to provision the Lambda function and update the Lambda function with the latest ECR Docker image. Okay. So before we start publishing this particular construct to our code artifact, the first step that we need to do is creating the code artifact, right? So here is my prerequisite folder, and this is where my code artifact is. And if you see here, I created a config so that you can customize the particular attributes of that particular artifact, okay? And this is how my code artifact resource looks like. All I'm doing is doing two things. One, creating an code artifact for my particular Lambda pipeline. And number two, I'm also adding a artifact for my public NPM libraries. So this is a mandatory for you to provision your own code artifact. So first we need to do here is I'm increasing the window so that you could see it better. Npm install. Okay, so Npm is install all the packages. All right, so the second thing that we need to do is CDK Deploy. This will basically create the code artifact resource for you in your AWS account. Okay, so the code artifact resource has been provisioned after I hit a CDK deploy command. So this is my code artifact repo. Let me walk you through this AWS console. How does it looks like? So if you see here, I'm in the CloudFormation template. Let's go to the code artifact. And this is my code artifact repository. You see here, right now it's very empty. So like I was mentioning, we also need an NPM repository so that other packages, the public packages, will be downloaded from there. All right, now we have provisioned the code artifact, which is a mandatory for building our pipeline. So the second step that we need to do is actually publish our pipeline construct into this code artifact. So now I'm going into CDK pipeline construct folder. Okay, so before we do that, what we need to do is we need to ensure our code artifact is validated or authenticated through AWS CLI. For that, there is a command which I put in the README. So basically, I am logging into my code artifact with this. This is my repo, and this is where my STS login is, right? And do that. So you should be seeing a successful output that you are now logged into code artifact. So the reason why we want to do that is, remember, before we used to do npm install, it used to go to the public library and download our packages. Now we have created our own code artifact. Now we have to do is authenticate to this one and make sure your npm installs are being diverted through the code artifact through npm library. Don't worry if it is too much confusion for you, but just go with the README document. You should be able to understand the whole flow. Okay, so I'm going to clear the screen and do npm Run Build, which is basically building your package. So this is how your package.json looks like for your lambda pipeline.construct, right? And all I'm saying is this is my construct name and this is my version number. So as you make improvements on this construct, you can increase this version number, right? Okay, so let's do npm install and then let's continue with the publishing the package. Okay, npm install is completed and it has created an npm modules folder here. So I'm not going to go deep dive into npm folders. Now let's do npm run build, which is we are building our package. So if you see here, right, this is my package name and this is the version that it is building. So now it has built. So finally, what we need to do is npm publish. That's it. So the package has been published into this code artifact. So let's go again into AWS console and see how does it look like. So I'm going to refresh this page and see if the published version exists here. There you go. Congratulations. So this is your first published CDK pipeline construct, right? So now, being a publisher, your role is ended here, right? Remember that the role that I was talking to you? So you are successfully published your package. The second piece here is now you need to wear an application developer role hat and consume that particular library. So let's go to the prerequisites folder again and create a code commit repo and also ECR repo. Okay, we're going to CDK ECR repo and run npm install. I'm going to clear my screen, then do CDK deploy. So this will basically create our ECR repo in AWS. Hey, successful. So we have created our ECR repo. Now let's go to the console and see how does it looks like. Once I refreshed it, so this is how it looks like. And right now, my ECR repo is empty. But once the pipeline triggers, that is where my application Lambda function Docker image would be publishing into this repo. Okay, so let's continue with our efforts of creating a code commit repo, right? So for that, what I need to do is go to code commit repo folder and do npm install. Okay, so I'm going to clear my screen and then do CDK deploy. Okay, successful. So your code commit repo is also completed. So let's go back to our high-level design, what we did so far. So we have created a code commit repo and we also created our ECR repo. So now let's jump into being an application developer role and create a pipeline and use this particular construct that is being published into code artifact. So for doing that, I put a folder called examples. Under here, I created a folder called team A Lambda pipeline. Okay. And if you go to the config file of this is how it looks like. Our name, app name, attribute, environment, region. But the main core points here are, what is your code commit repo name? Remember, we just created one. And what is your ECR repo name? Remember, we just created one. So we just need to pass the stuff. Also, we have to pass the build spec ECR. So build spec for our ECR stage, where it is going to publish it. And also build spec for our Lambda function. Okay. So now, no further, let's go to our package.json and update our ECR repo and add our CDK construct that we have created. Remember the CDK construct? So let's go to our AWS console and find that CDK construct name. So let's go to code artifact. So this is my code artifact. I'm going here. This is my package name, right? So all I'll do is copy this package, go to my code, and put my version number. Remember the version number? The version number is 1.0.0, right? 1.0.0. Okay, all right. So we are done with updating our package.json. Now we need to install this particular stuff. So you have to observe this. Now, just like how we are doing npm install, do the same thing. Let me clear the screen. And now we go to our examples folder, cd, clear screen, and do npm install. Okay, the npm install is completed. Now what we will do is, we'll review whether this particular package has been installed or not, or exists in node modules folder. All right, so there it is, Lambda pipeline construct. So this is the one which has been downloaded from our code artifact. It means that now you are ready to build your Lambda pipeline using this construct. So for doing that, all you need to do is pretty much simple, CDK deploy. All right, our pipeline has been created. So let's go to the AWS console and see how does it look like. So this is so when we go to the pipelines, this is how it looks like, team A, and it is sourcing from my code commit repository. The repository name is this, and this is where my branch name is. Okay, so from here, if you see, it has built my Docker image. Let's quickly go into the details of it and see how does it look like. So basically it built Docker image from my resource Lambda folder, and then it also published my Docker image to the ECR repo. If you see here, this is where my Docker images. So let's go to the ECR repo and see how does it look like from there. ECR, registry. There it is. So latest tag, right? Okay, so let's go to our pipeline back and see what are the changes that it is still doing. Since it's in progress, the code build is completed. The first stage is completed. Now it is doing the second stage, which is basically creating the Lambda function and also updating the Lambda function with the latest Docker image. Okay, oh, it's successful. So let's click on details and see what exactly that it has built. The first command, it has logged into ECR, and then it went to this particular folder. That is where my Lambda function CDK code is. And it has updated my ECR repo name. Now run the CDK commands. CDK Deploy, right? That has basically created a Lambda function with this URL. So let's go to the Lambda function here and see how does it looks like. So this is the Lambda function that it has built. And this is the image that it is used to build this particular Lambda function. So every time so it means that every time the pipeline executes, the Docker builds, and that particular Docker is being used to update the Lambda function. All right, so I hope my message is clear. So let's go to our high-level design document quickly and review the changes. So the first thing is we have created two roles. One is a package developer role and the application developer role. The role of this package developer is to create a pipeline construct, that Lambda pipeline construct that basically publishes the code artifact. And the second role is application developer who wants a Lambda pipeline. All he is doing is using that particular published artifact in his CDK code and in package.json and run CDK deploy. That basically created an application pipeline with basically creates the Docker image and also publishes the code. So as being an application developer, I use the library of Lambda pipeline that has been published to code artifact and file CDK deploy that basically created my pipeline with two stages. One, it builds my Lambda function and pushes to ECR. And then the second stage takes the same ECR Docker image and builds my Lambda function and also updated my Lambda function with the latest code to it. I hope this session brought you some idea of how to use CDK constructs. So feel free to download my sample code and experiment it and share with me if you have any questions. And don't forget to subscribe. Happy coding, fellows.